Hi, this is Stephen from Owner Disto. There are many 2-in-1 laptops on the market with pen support, usually the smaller ones, 13-inch, but even also the growing 15-inch market. But having an AMD one is quite unique. And what I have here is the HP Envy 360, and it uses the Ryzen 5 2500U CPU. Now it can be configured like my model with a 1TB spinning hard drive and 16GB of RAM, all the way up to 32GB of RAM and a 512GB SSD. Now my model is priced in the mid 700 range, but you can actually buy it direct from HP for 650. Now you can go for an Intel i7 8550U model with 256GB SSD, a 1TB hard drive and 12 gigs of RAM for about $1,100, but an equivalent AMD version is just over $100 less. Now both the i7 8550U and the Ryzen 5 2500U are 15-watt parts with 4 cores and 8 threads. They're both clocked, pretty similar, with only about 200 MHz separating them both on the base and the boost clocks. Now the big difference is that the Ryzen has Vega 8 graphics, with 8 compute units giving 512 stream processors. Now, how will this AMD CPU compare to the Intel HD 620 graphics? Well, the first thing I want to mention is that I recommend you configure one of these with an SSD. Upgrading it yourself is possible, but it's a bit of a pain, and there's probably more than likely will void your warranty. Now you have 3 Torx 5 screws to remove, and then you have to peel off the rubber strip, the foot underneath, to remove 4 more screws. Now the back is solid, it's made of aluminium and takes some prizing to get off. Now once you are inside, you see a 3-cell 56 watt-hour battery, you see a 1TB hard drive, 2 RAM slots, so max of 32 gigs, and this is covered with a metal shield. Now the Ryzen APU is cooled with a single heat pipe and a single fan. There is one M.2 SSD slot that is PCI Express. Now despite the 100 megabytes per second performance, the hard drive does boot up pretty fast. In fact, about 32 seconds, which is similar to the Dell XPS 13. Now that being said, it does feel pretty slow and sluggish during normal use. So unless you're on a tight budget, that SSD is a must. Perhaps it's all the HP bloatware that is installed. Who knows? Anyway, having that SSD will not only help in game and application load times, but also helps when you're writing to the disk, such as my handbrake test, where I encode a 4GB video file. With a spinning disk, it took 62 minutes to do the encode, but with the SSD, it took 60 minutes. That shaved off 2 minutes. Still, the Ryzen 5 2500U could not keep up with the Intel 15-watt parts. The Dell XPS 13 was well tuned to boost around about the 3 GHz mark and pushed about 35 watts, whilst the Ryzen Core 0 here, the first core, ran at only about half that speed and used only 11 watts. Still, it's not too far behind the stock Surface Book 2, which is a much more expensive machine. Now I do like it. It's a very nice looking laptop. The lid is also made of aluminium with a silver HP logo. I believe it's only available in the dark grey colour, whilst the Intel model is in silver. The back is nice too. It has a nice silver rear with the word Envy engraved on one of the hinges. Build quality is good for such a budget 2-in-1. There are no seams or creaks, and there's no screen flex. My only gripes are that it feels sharp, on the sides here, and you've got these big stickers, ugly stickers on the top. And also the hinge, is not very strong, and you're walking around, it will flop down like that. The placement of the rear exhaust may not be the best, as half of it is actually under the laptop. And if, like me, you sit there and you're doing it on one leg, you'll find that it blocks those vents, and it does get pretty hot. So with it being a 2-in-1, you can use the laptop in tent mode, which is great for watching a movie, or in tablet mode if you are a note taker. Now one good thing is that in tablet mode there is no screen bounce. Now there's no pen in the box, but it uses an N-Trig pen such as the Surface Pen, and it works well for taking notes and sketching. Palm rejection I found was pretty good, and the pen tip was recognized about 1 centimeter away. Now a good thing for tablet use is that the volume rocker is on the right hand side, along with a power port, a USB 3 Type A port, a USB Type C, and an SD card reader. The USB-C has a Thunderbolt symbol. Don't let that fool you. It's not at all, and it will not work with an external GPU. There is the same symbol on the USB-A port, and it means that these ports can actually be used to charge devices such as your cell phone when the laptop is powered off. On the left hand side, we have a full-sized HDMI 2 port, a second USB-A port, the power button and a combo headphone microphone jack. Now for a 15-inch 2-in-1, it is quite light. I measured it at about 4.1 pounds or 1.85 kilos, and it's, it's pretty slim at 19 millimeters or 3/4 inch thick. It makes for a very good laptop for work and play, especially when it has a very responsive touch display. Now for gaming and general use, the BOE 1920 by 1080 panel works pretty well. As is the case for all touchscreens, it is pretty reflective, especially outdoors or under bright lights. Now indoors, of course, you can adjust it quite well to get a good position, and it is a UWVA panel, so it does have good viewing angles, which is great for watching movies. Unfortunately, it is far from bright, and you will have to keep it at about 50% brightness or higher to actually see anything. As you can see, its full brightness is equivalent to 50% on the Surface Book 2, now, but its color accuracy is also pretty poor, with only 63% of sRGB and 47% of Adobe RGB. To top it off, my panel also has quite a bit of backlight bleed, which you can see in any still image. Now gaming or anything with motion is fine, but it's something to bear in mind. Now there is no fingerprint reader, so it uses Windows Hello infrared cameras, which to be honest I find was pretty hit and miss. I would have much preferred having a fingerprint reader on here. 720p webcam on the HP Envy360. There's a little bit of lag. I think the processor might be slowing it down a little bit. It's fairly clear. The trackpad is nice and wide. It uses Synaptic drivers, so it's generally pretty good. Not as good as Windows Precision, but scrolling and pinch to zoom work pretty well. The keyboard feels fine. It has a decent amount of key travel, and what I do like, it has a one-button press for changing the volume or turning the white key backlighting on and off. I also like that there is a separate number pad. Now audio is produced by Bang & Olufsen speakers that fire upwards through a grill at the front. At 72 decibels, I have heard louder, but they are definitely adequate. The fan at idle is very quiet, barely audible at 19 decibels, and even under full load, they only reach 32. It helps that there's only one small fan, but how does it cope with cooling the laptop? The center of the keyboard is at 24 degrees Celsius, the AWSD keys at 22, the number pad at 26, and the trackpad at 20. Underneath, in the center, it's about 27. But as mentioned before, if you block that rear exhaust vent, at the back, with your leg or whatever, it does get rather hot there. Now looking at the CPU temperature, I got an average of 84 degrees under full load. There was no throttling, but note that it only pulls about 1/3 of the power. So with such a low wattage CPU and a very low brightness screen, I know what you're thinking. This laptop should last all day. Well, unfortunately it doesn't. HP does tout 11 hours, but when I was streaming YouTube at 25% brightness and power saver, I got 4.5 hours. That's quite far behind the likes of the Yoga 720 15-inch, and to be honest, I found that a bit disappointing. Perhaps it makes up for it by, being more powerful. In Cinebench, it falls about 12% behind the Intel 8th Gen CPUs, but in Lightroom, where I convert 50 photos to a video slideshow, it actually just came out on top. Given the handbrake result we saw earlier, I would say that we get about 15% less CPU performance with the Ryzen 5 2500U, compared to the Intel ones. But it is the integrated Vega 8 graphics that make this a standout feature. Using low settings at 720p, we get an average of 75% better performance than the Intel HD620, making games such as Battlefield 1, Tomb Raider and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds very playable. Even Rainbow Six Siege was able to get 47 FPS at high settings or 39 frames per second at 1920 by 1080 using low settings. And the GPU was pretty cool as well at 78 degrees. Now for some reason, Doom kept on crashing on me, giving me this error message. Here is some actual gameplay footage. Now I did try using AMD Overdrive to see if I could actually overclock it, but it kept on saying it was not compatible with the Raven Ridge APU, which was a shame. Now there is some Radeon software included. It allows you to alter global GPU settings such as anti-aliasing, texture filtering and tessellation. you have 8 different video options, such as cinema or outdoor. And under the display tab, you can alter the color temperature and enable virtual super resolution, which is the same as NVIDIA's dynamic super resolution, or DSR. This allows games to automatically render at higher resolutions up to 4K, and then displaying that content at low resolutions on the laptop monitor. Now, this can improve quality and also provide a wider view, or a more complete view, which is perfect for real-time strategy games. In my testing, I saw no negative impact on enabling this setting. To conclude then, I think the HP 360 is pretty good value, even at just under $1,000 with a 256GB SSD and the 1TB hard drive. Now, for those, if you want to save some money and buy your own SSD and buy the base model at $650, that is great. But you can also bear in mind it's $100 cheaper than the Intel models, and you can also play games on this much better. In that case, it's a no-brainer. Undoubtedly, the Intel ones are going to get warmer as well. Now, battery life was the real kicker for me. It is lightweight and portable, so having a good battery life should be good. But having pen support is great, and for me, that's the icing on the cake. It also looks good, has good build quality. Once you peel these stupid stickers off, and it has good port connections as well. Well, that's it. I hope you found it useful. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.